If I was gonna build a Roman town, I guess I'd probably start it around this bend in the river. This is the Forum, the heartbeat of the city, the game says. And this is Citadelum, which to me is really just Caesar 4 reincarnated. I've always really liked strategy games and building games, which is why I'm a huge fan of RimWorld, which is kind of my go-to right now, obviously, if you're watching my channel. But I was also really into Caesar 4 when I was younger. Also Civilization, Stellaris, City Skylines, these types of games. And I saw this game on Steam and I was thinking about Caesar 4 and how cool that game used to be and how I used to play that game all the time when I was younger. I thought I'd give this a try. I actually only did the introductory tutorial and then went straight into sandbox mode. So I learned how to do some basic things with the game, but I realized after I started playing it that this game is extremely similar to Caesar 4 to the point where I kind of already knew what to do. So we built a forum and we built a couple plebeian housings, which were those initial 2 buildings we built. And those supply the workers for the stone quarry I'm building right now, the fire department and well I'm building right now, and eventually we'll build some warehouses and some logging camps up there. Right now we're going to build a little bit more plebeian housing so that we can have more workers to supply our city. We also built that reservoir, which is kind of funny. I don't think that was Roman technology, having a water wheel supply a above ground reservoir like that. Really, they supplied water through the river itself or the aqueducts, which ran based off gravity alone from the mountain. But it looks cool, I guess, and this game just doesn't have the ability set up for us to build an actual aqueduct off of a mountain. So we're going to build some farmland, and then we'll build, like I said, some storage facilities, and we'll build also some logging camps, and then we'll be on our way to collecting stone, collecting wood, and then also making food. And this is all done by our plebeians who just kind of wander naturally into the town. Like I said, very similar to games of this kind of genre that were made in the past. And in order to distribute our food, we need a market. And this market will naturally just distribute the food to the houses that are within the radius or the square of the market itself. You can look into plebeian housing a little bit and see that it's pretty primitive, and they even have little kind of trench holes to poop in and some primitive toilets, and it's a multi-family home that's kind of shared with the center skylight to the outside. Our farm is progressing well, and that's the beginning of our Roman town. We gain prestige level, and this allows us to build some more advanced buildings, including patrician housing. Patricians are the sort of more elite class compared to the plebeians, and they're important because they're our tax-paying citizens. That's why it's blinking red coins. So in order to stabilize our income, we need patricians. Although they won't work, they'll just kind of consume, and eventually later on would do things like go to the games, work in the Senate, etc., etc. But right now they're gonna pay us some money, so the first thing we build next to it is a tax office. They also have a little bit nicer housing, 2-story housing, and less people live inside the housing compared to the plebeians on the same square footage. They also eat different types of food, and they require more variety of food than the plebeians. But one thing in common is that both plebeian and patrician all enjoy one thing in similarity, which is wine. Everybody loves wine. And there's not much to do in this town because we don't have much going on other than some small gardens, the forum, and a couple our market right now. So they're probably going to need something to do in the form of entertainment. So we'll build them a little winery, but then also a tavern across the street, because while making wine is one thing, we also need a place to consume it. And ancient Dave and Busters, if you will, both plebeians and patricians alike, share the commonality of wanting to enjoy some wine in the tavern. Our main goal is to achieve economic stability. Right now we're at minus 130 silver. If we have enough patricians and they can collect taxes efficiently, then our economy will stabilize, which is, funny enough, even something that we struggle with to this very day, right? Even our nation of America has problems with the national deficit. But if I can achieve righteousness in this tiny Roman town, then that will be a first step towards stability in the region. We're also looking for neighbors. If we can find neighbors, then we could also trade with our neighbors. We could also stabilize our economy through trade, which highlights why trade is so important in the modern economy, right? The reservoir looks pretty neat, and my explorer finds Pluto, the god's Pluto, Dionysus, Bacchus, if you will, the god of like pleasure, drinking, partying. Sure, why not? My people need more. What do they need? Wine, right? We want wine because there's nothing else to do in this little Roman town except to grow crops and get drunk, which is not super bad life, right? But now we got a lot of wine. I wish we had someone to trade with, because then we could trade some of these grapes and wheat and extra stuff that we have. Our probably not historically accurate reservoir. I don't know if what's going on with our water source, but it looks cool, I guess. Our probably not historically accurate firefighting system, too. Dude just runs into the burning building with one bucket of water and puts it out. I think technically that probably is how they fought fires back in the day, although they probably used a line of people handing buckets to each other. This is the Forum. The Forum looks pretty cool, especially for this small village. And this is our patrician housing. They get 2-story houses as opposed to our 1-story plebeian houses. And we have a pretty robust farm, but right now we're approaching plus 25 silver a day, fluctuating around slightly negative to slightly positive. So I think we're reaching stability. Again, if we could find people to trade with, we found a phallus-shaped object, which is funny, weird addition to the game. Our explorations have been unfruitful in yielding allied neighbors to trade with. What we have found is some enemy folks that we're trying to avoid with our explorer. But other than that, we're kind of coming to a point where we're reaching homeostasis and the ability to just maintain. Funny thing about the game is when you start getting to this point in the game, you can trigger the next event by getting a certain population, getting a certain amount of resources. But if you don't do that, then you can actually start to just stack up stone and lumber. And so you'll see towards the end of the video, I realized that I can not trigger the next age or tier, if you want to call it that, and I can just stack up a bunch of resources in lieu of advancing to the next stage, because my fear is that in the next stage, I'm going to have to be forced to engage in military battles, which I don't have any military right now, and I'm not ready to defend this place. I have no walls or anything. But if I can get a stockpile of stone and wood, then I'll be able to build some defensive walls and a garrison and defend this little edge of the forest. Edge of Germania? Edge of Romania? I'm not sure exactly where this little Roman outpost would be. But, you know, if it's new construction, I imagine it could be on the edge of latter-day Gaul, maybe. Even Britain. You know, the Romans went into Britain. Hadrian's Wall. So maybe we can do that in the next video. If you're interested in this type of content and you like this video, then comment and maybe I'll keep growing the town. If not, I hope you enjoyed this brief look at Citadelum.